Jack Daniels Art Beats Lyrics culturally affluent art exhibit event that was in Charlotte this weekend got the city yapping, and I got some thoughts. So I want to start by saying I went to the Jack Daniels Art Beats Lyrics event that was here in 2019 during All-Star Weekend. It was on a Friday, and it was in like a gymnasium auditorium type of vibe. I'm gonna be honest and say that I know that 2019 to 2026 is completely different eras. I feel like at that point we only had CIAA that was like a super black event for the black community, culturally specific. And then, unless like somebody came here and did something, there wasn't really a whole lot that was going on during that time. Like there weren't as many African American specific clubs and stuff like that. There were a few, but like the variety was not that plentiful. And a lot of the places that we partied at for CIAA actually did not get filled up with people that look like me on a normal basis. I'ma just throw that out there and we're gonna leave that there. I think that there's a lot of criticism that we all have given about how the event was handled on Saturday. Hear me out when I say it. If you do RSVPs and then you say, okay, make sure y'all arrive early because the space is limited. Okay, cool. We heard y'all the first time y'all said it. And then you open it up for more RSVPs, knowing that the space probably can't safely accommodate the initial count of RSVPs. Why would you do that? Now, I did see, I think the young man's name might be Wesley, which I think he's one of the people that probably connected with Jack Daniels to kind of make this happen. Special shouts out to you. I think the black creative community in Charlotte definitely deserves a lot more credit than they're given. I feel like in the last couple of weeks, they've been putting on a lot of events, and I feel like we've been showing up in droves. But I think that in this case, he did post something where he shared that the RSVP process was more about data about the Charlotte community than it was about accommodating the quantity. And so I think that it could have been presented differently. Like, listen, please RSVP so that we can have accurate data around the level of interest that an event like this can have in the city. And then say things like, we are at a max capacity for this event of like 500 people. Once we meet that max, we won't be able to let anybody else in unless people come out. I think that's where a lot of this got misconstrued. I think the communication of like what the cap was should have been communicated. A lot of people are saying that like when they got inside, it was spacious and you can move around. Now, what I think probably the assumption was about this experience is that people would come in, they would experience the art exhibit, and then they would leave. I think the downside to having Primos and all them other people come perform is that people aren't going to leave if their intention was to come there and see that person perform. If you wanted it to be a more culturally specific art exhibit, then I think that's all it should have been. I understand that adding an artist to it is a part of the concept here, but I think that's also where you lose the ability for this to be a free-flowing event. Now, this is somebody who works in marketing, and I'm just going to talk about this from the consumer behavior standpoint. If your intention is for people to come and experience the art exhibit and leave, I think you need to socialize that. And I also think that maybe eliminating the need for artists at that point, because I feel like it did those artists a disservice to only be exposed to 300 to 500 people when there were thousands of people that would have been completely interested in that. Another thing that I would throw out there is making a paid ticketed event. I would have paid for that because the content that I've seen from the event is something that I would have definitely enjoyed being exposed to, but I didn't get the option to do that. And I feel like so many other people feel like we were robbed of the possibility. I understand that y'all said get there early, but there are some people that are saying they were there at 5 and the doors didn't open until 7. And I feel like get there early and you tell me to get there at 5 for an event that doesn't start until 7 is crazy. I know I got there at 7 o'clock, and I feel like that's still early for an event that starts at 7. Now, by the time I was getting ready to leave the house, the line was already double wrapped, and that's because my friends were seeing it. And you know the other concept of if my friends in the line, I'm going to jump the line and go with my friends. That obviously was happening, so some of us probably could have gotten there if that wasn't the concept. Either way, I'm not knocking nobody for doing that. I just think that, you know, if you want this to be a free-flowing event, maybe we make this a longer event. Maybe it's not just from 7 to 11. Maybe it's something that like starts at 10 a.m. and runs to 11 p.m. And that way you get this constant flow of people all day. Now, I know that like when you say that, then that means you got to pay for people to be there that long. You got to rent a venue and all that kind of stuff. But Jack Daniels got the money. That's not the issue. In addition to that, I do think that the coordinators of the event deserve a lot of grace because a lot of this is out of their control, especially when Jack Daniels is sponsoring and paying for the event. I feel like if they were paying for the event, they would have capped it out. They would have never did all that. In the same fashion that like R&Brew actually opened up tickets, and I heard some people saying that those tickets was like $45. Okay, cool. But it's a paying event. They opened it up because they knew they had the capacity to withhold that. And I can respect when somebody assesses the venue, confirms what's feasible, and gives people an option to experience it within those parameters. I think there are a lot of limiting factors. And I just think that like, yeah, I get that you're telling me to be there on time, but when you accept, because I'm going to just use this theory, the cap capacity is 500 people. You accept 3,700 RSVPs. And I'm saying this loosely because I don't know how many people actually RSVP. That was a losing battle for over 90% of the people that RSVP. Now Jack Daniels has data that says there is a strong interest in something such as this. But what has also happened is it's left such a bad taste in the community's mouth that the next time it happens, there will be people that will still go. But there'll be a lot of people that will see that free RSVP and scan right on past it. Because the ability to get somebody so hyped up for something, you talking about hair, makeup, outfit, to stand in the line for an hour and a half in the freezing cold. And the other thing that I had an issue with is they didn't have people working the line to come communicate that. If the young lady who was going to tell her friends they're at capacity, they're not letting anybody else in, if she didn't come say that, we would not have known in the space that we were standing in because we were too far away from the door. Now, we could see the line and we could see that they were holding the line, but we were thinking they were holding the line because it was too much movement and they needed to like slow the pace of how people were flowing in. You got to communicate to your people too. I get that it's limited capacity, but tell me that, because there were people that were still parking. There were people that were still walking up to the event thinking that they got a chance to get in there. Now, granted, around 9 o'clock, I think some people did start to get in there, but that's probably because the people who got there at 7 were leaving to go do something else. Because once you see the art exhibit, if you're not really into whoever performing, you eat, you drink, you marry a little bit, and you ready to go. Now, those are just my thoughts.